Are you a fan on tournament arcs? Do you love Shonen? Then you're in the right place because today we're going to be doing a tournament bracket of the best speeches in anime. Now, this is something a little bit different. It's my first attempt at it. I don't know how this is going to proceed, how it's going to go. Usually, we might do something like a tier list or a top 10. We're throwing them out today. We're going to be doing tournament brackets to keep things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more unique. We've got 16 different speeches. They're by no means the 16 greatest speeches of all time. They're very much up there. But they're the 16 kind of biggest speeches I could think of off the top of my head. I had a list of about 40, but I wanted to keep this a little bit more precise, so this can definitely have a part 2. Let me know down in the comments all the speeches you think should have made this first part of the list. For right now, this isn't the order of it. We're gonna randomize this. But for right now, very, very quickly, we're just gonna go through all of them. Doflamingo's speech about justice, Shanks' speech about if you hurt a friend, Kira from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures speech about just wanting a normal life, Erwin from Attack on Titan speak about rage, a little bit more in-depth than that, but you get what I mean. Ulquiorra's speech about the heart, Kaneki's speech about this messed up world, Rengoku's dying speech, that one hits me hard. Archer, The Truth is Revealed from the Fate series. What do we have here? We have Thorfinn, I Have No Enemies, what he inherited from his father. Aizen, I Am a Victor. And let's stop there. Some of these characters can have multiple really great speeches. I've just picked it down to one, but in the future, these characters might have a repeat with some different speeches. There's that many of them, some of them have. I'm looking at you, Vegeta, down the bottom here. Hiruluk from One Piece, When Does a Man Die? Madara, Wake Up to Reality, lots of people's favorites. Robin, I Want to Live. Yuji from Jujutsu Kaisen, I Am You, and Pain's speech about hate. I thought I had Vegeta on here. Yes, I do. Vegeta, the pride of a Saiyan. Vegeta had so many. I wanted to probably go with his most iconic one. But let's get on with it. Let's just quickly randomize it and see where it all results in. All right. Now, this is just me, we'll randomize it again just for everyone's thought of if I'm like scripting these are totally off the cuff, totally shooting here. I have no idea what the answer is going to be, so I think this is going to be a little bit fun. In the first tier that we have here, we have Madara's speech about wake up to reality versus Pain's speech about hate. Jesus, I did not expect it to be that dicey already. I'm already loving this system of it. These are like some of the end game ones, I reckon, in terms of great speeches. Oh, we have let's you know what, Jack? Let's actually start the tournament first, though, shouldn't we? There we go. Madara's speech about wake up to reality. Madara probably has, it's a new age term, but probably has more aura to him than Pain does. He comes out of nowhere, beats a whole army, beats 5 Kages. When you do that, your words carry a certain weight that the audiences can't help but feel. And with Madara's ideology about wanting to bring peace to this world, and his speech about waking up to reality, about seeing all the hate and the love, and if you go into love, then you must learn to also hate, because they're interchangeable here. They're two sides of the same coin. It's, it's very much a bombastic type of speech, but it's something that we can relate to everyday lives. Love and hate is very... one comes to the other, and people can often go from loving to hating in very quick succession. Pain's one is, when I thought of anime speeches, this is the one that came to my mind immediately. Pain's speech about to Naruto about hate. I could probably recite you the whole thing just off the top of my head. I'm not going to. I do not need to cringe you all out, probably more than I already have. But where he goes, what about my friends? My village, my loved ones. They suffered the same fate of you hidden leaf ninjas. I've completely blanked it. They suffered the same fate that this village has suffered from the hands of hidden leaf ninjas. you're looking at this world in black and white with rose-tinted glasses on, actually, I should probably say, with Naruto. Pain really kind of gets to the nitty-gritty with Naruto and really hits him where it hurts, because that's something that Naruto hasn't really thought about the consequences that his own village delivered to the neighboring villages in the Great Shinobi Wars. And seeing the realization on Naruto's face, seeing Pain's just determination of, making these tailed beasts into tailed beast weapons and to essentially nuke the world, to teach people the meaning of life through hate, to to suppress people's urge to do war and harm onto each other. It's very, very extremist. It's very much kind of like Madara's in the sense that it would probably work. And Pain's actually intelligent enough to know that that too will eventually subside. That pain will be forgotten. And then those weapons of mass destruction will have to be used again. Which I thought was really, really great kind of insight to his character. Oh, you know what? Despite my fumble there just before, I can do this speech pretty much word for word. I can't say the same for Madara's. So I think it goes to show just how much more of an impact it had on me. And I think I'm going to put Pain as the winner there. I think Madara is going to get knocked out in the first round. But who do we have next? Shanks, If You Hurt a Friend, and Ulquiorra's speech about heart. Now, to give a quick refresher, let's start with Ulquiorra's, because that might be the one that's less well known. Ulquiorra in Bleach is the fourth Espada, depending on how you look at it, the strongest Espada. Everyone's probably favorite Espada. And he has a speech to Orihime. Ulquiorra represents, his aspect of death is nihilism. And he mentions that, what is this heart that humans speak about? This heart that is kind of like their will, their spirit, what moves them forward. If I rip open your skull, will I see it there? If I rip your heart out of your chest, will I see it? And it's such deep it's such a deep meaning to his character because of the nihilism that's attached to him. He's not being condescending. He really just doesn't understand what this concept is. And it's through his relationship with Orihime and through his fight with Ichigo that he eventually comes to know it. And you can say that finally knowing what the heart was is what killed him. That's when he turns into dust after seeing Ichigo's dedication to cut off his own limbs and to sacrifice his body to what he did to Ulquiorra in his Vasto Lorde state. Ulquiorra is a very compelling character, one of those charismatic villains of when he speaks, you listen. And I think that he's the duality of him being such a nihilistic, emotionless, stoic, incredibly powerful figure, and Orihime being so more naive and so more, what's the word I'm looking here? So more generous and nice and just non-threatening. To have the conversation go between these two characters, I think was really wonderful. I know there's lots of fan fiction that will ship the two of them together, but it's even kind of more intimate than that in a lot of ways, because Ulquiorra is literally kind of learning the meaning of life. That is what's representing, heart is what is representing that. So I think it's very profound, Ulquiorra's speech about it. Shanks' speech of If You Hurt a Friend is something I think we can all relate to, though. Where Shanks, I consider myself a pretty laid-back guy, and Shanks thinks himself as that. And, he can have booze poured over him, he can have food thrown at him, he can be spitted on. But he's not going to react and take this up to aggression and violence because it's not worth it. There's so many more important things in the world to let yourself be sidetracked by some, idiot trying to provoke you. So Shanks's speech here about, I'll let all this slide, but if you hurt someone I care about, it's game over for you. It's not him, it's Lucky Roo, but he's literally the cause of the first death in One Piece. Some guy goes up to threaten them, and Shanks has the badass extra speech about, guns aren't for threats, they're for actions. Because this is a Shanks that the kitty gloves are off. You've hurt Luffy, you've kidnapped Luffy, you've hurt a friend of Shanks, and he's not going to let that stand. And it's a theme that follows through with the entire story when we see Luffy get to do that with Usopp, when he meets him in Syrup Village. About the speech about the gun is really, really cool. And then at where is it? It is the Pirate Island with Bellamy. Oh my god, I'm completely blanking. I know people are screaming at me in the comments. Jaya, where he won't let Bellamy, he won't be provoked to Bellamy's taunts, and he lets Bellamy beat him up. Because that's how much of a profound effect Shanks's words has had on him. It's literally shaped our MC to go on to 1150 episodes of just pure awesomeness through the words of Shanks in a lot of ways. It's not being a pirate king, but it's probably even more important. But the question, Jack, who wins? This one I think is more close than Mutterer and Payne. I'm really debating it here. I think Shanks' speech probably has more impact on the story, and is probably a speech that most people can relate to compared to Ulquiorra's. And I think with how many lasting impacts it has on the story, I think Shanks is just more impactful and a greater speech overall. But Ulquiorra is one of my favorite characters in Bleach, so it kind of pains me to kind of knock him out in the first round. But I think it has to be Shanks. So we're gonna have Shanks versus Payne. It's Archer. The truth is revealed versus Kaneki, the messed up world. I'm gonna talk about Kaneki's speech first. He's getting tortured by Jason. He's getting his fingers tortured. He's getting centipedes in the ears. Jason is psychologically torturing him, making him count back by 7 just to make from 1,000, just to make sure he stays sane so he can experience more pain. And as this is happening, Kaneki is having an inner monologue in kind of like in his mindscape, in quotations, with Riza. I think I might be pronouncing that wrong. It's been a while. About things like his mother, especially. It's a few other things, but things like his mother and how his mother um, essentially killed herself. And we see Kaneki really kind of unleashing some truths that he probably has never even thought of until this point. Well, he's thought of it, but never kind of put it into words about how he doesn't like. Why was I not enough? Why did you have to go and do this to yourself? Why do I have to be left alone? Why couldn't you just loved me enough and been there for me? Why does this world continue to reject me? Why do I have to experience all these hardships? Why do I have to be a ghoul? Why do I have to live in this messed up world? Now, we have two extremes here. That is a speech I think everyone can kind of relate to. I think everyone has had a time in their life where they're like, why does this world hate me so much? Why does so many bad things continuously happen day after day, week after week, month after month? You get to a good place and it goes downhill again. There is many different interpretations you can take from Kaneki's speech, and I think it's very, very relatable. Archer's one up here is probably, out of all these, the most unrelatable one, but it's also, in my mind, one of my favorites with just how wild it is. Now, these are anime that have all been out for a long time, but we'll say spoilers here. If you don't want to know what happens in Fate series Unlimited Blade Works, just, turn off now. You're going to have to turn off, if you want to see where Archer goes in this. But we get this massive reveal that our main character, our protagonist, Shiro Emiya, is actually the present version of the epic hero Archer. Now, we know that heroes being summoned by the Holy Grail can be summoned from, we learn in this scene, can be summoned from the past, present, or future. So this is the first, and I think only in the core series, hero that ever comes from the future. And for it to be the main character is crazy. Archer looks so different. He's so much taller than Shiro. He's got the tan skin. He's got the white hair. But then when we see what Shiro's power does to him and where he is then stationed in life in like a desert, very hot, arid kind of region, you can kind of see where the skin tone is coming from. And to find out that these two people are the same people, to see the clash in ideology where Archer is trying so hard to force Shiro to submit because he can't just kill him. He needs to convince him to give up on his dreams. And I count the speech from the minute he like mentions who he is and what his ideology is and what his goals are, where he wants to erase himself from the throne of heroes, or I think it's the throne of heroes, hall of heroes, something like that, where all the heroes go and live in the afterlife. He wants to be out of that system, out of the system of being forced to clean up the problems of humanity time and time again. And he speaks about how he would clean up one mess after another, and that by killing a few, he was saving the many, and how he broke from being the idealistic hero that was going to save everyone to the cynical hero that was just going to prioritize the mass of people rather than the individuals. I think it is quite possibly my favorite twist in fiction. The Fate series as a whole is a top 10 anime for me, and I think that I'm going to give it to Archer. Once again, all these speeches aren't just, what's the most realistic. That plays a part in my scoring process here. But with how big this is, with how much I remember it, I think I have to go Archer revealing the truth. That one, I'm curious to see what everyone thinks on that. I don't know even how many people have watched it. So it'll be very curious to, you might be screaming at me like, Jack, what are you doing? But Archer being paired with Kaneki, I think is actually a pretty good pairing out of all these, because they're probably two of the anime that are the smaller ones compared to all of the ones we have here. Oh boy, I didn't even see this. We have Vegeta, the Pride of the Saiyan speech, versus Erwin and the My Soldier's Rage. Oh, what should we go with here? Vegeta has a lot of different speeches. He's one in the Majin Buu saga about admitting his faults to Goku is very profound. But I've always loved kind of the macho, I am a Saiyan, I have the pride of the Saiyans, I'm a prince of the Saiyans, I won't lose to you, I am the ultimate warrior, I have lived my life for this, where he's hyping himself up. I've always loved that. Erwin's is the exact opposite. It's not so much hyping himself up, it's hyping up everyone around him. There is no better spokesperson, no better hype man than Erwin from Attack on Titan. I just did an Attack on Titan video, very controversially kind of expressing my thoughts on the show. But Erwin's speeches, I mean, you can't take that away from him. The man can talk. Which one do I like more, though? I think that Vegeta stays with me more. Erwin's is definitely probably done better in terms of the dialogue, but I just can't get over the charisma that Vegeta has when he's on his tirade about being, the pride of the Saiyans and being an ultimate warrior. But then Erwin's one is literally like a sacrificial speech where his men are literally dying. It reminds me a little bit of, not to get too historical with it, but I'm from Australia, obviously, with the accent. The Battle of Gallipoli. My boys here from Australia will probably know what I'm talking about the Australian soldiers who were young as 14 running into open fire off the boats and just getting gunned down. The hopelessness that must have been being felt then reminds me a lot of Erwin's moment with his men, where, and I hope I'm spelling that right, by the way, Erwin, I think it's Erwin, but where his men are running, they're getting devoured by titans, and they're like, and he's like, push on, damn it, push on, my soldiers, rage, and he just won't, like, he will never give up, his fire will never go out. I think I might actually have to give it to Erwin. I've kind of talked myself into it there. Vegeta overall is a better with the speeches with just the sheer quantity of them. But in terms of, these are both shows that, one I find very overrated, the other one I really like, but it's more of a, top 15 to 25 type of anime, maybe even like 20 to 25 anime for me. It's not approaching top 10 at all. So I'm not I'm going to have Dragon Ball fans watching this that, like, this is their number one. But for me, I think I have to give it to Erwin. Oh, who do we have here? Yuji. I'm going to have to, what are we on here? 20 minutes. I'm going to have to speed this up a little bit. Yuji, I am you, one of the more recent speeches. And, this would have been a great pairing with, I really need to get some glasses. This text being so small is really irritating. Side note, if anyone knows a better tournament website to do these brackets on, let me know. I wish the presentation could be a little bit smoother, a little bit brighter, maybe with some photos. Let me know. I was having a look, but I couldn't find anything. This is another great pairing, though. This is up there with Archer and Kaneki. The two most modern anime that we have on this list. Yuji, I Am You, and Thorfinn, I Have No Enemies. I love both these series, and I love them very similarly. You know what I'm saying? I love them very equally. If we're talking about Dragon Ball being a 15 to 25 ranked anime of all time for me, these are probably an 11 to 15 type of tier. They don't get it into my top 10, but they're just kind of below the top 10, these two. So, oh, which one do I like more? You know what? I think I have to give it to Thorfinn. Now, let me explain my reasoning. The UGIMU is very, very profound with his fight with Mahito, where he goes on, like, I've tried to deny it all along, but, I am you. And if you ever reborn, I will find you and I will kill you. If you change your form, your appearance, I will find you and I will kill you. That hatred I have for you is all encompassing, and I am just as bad as you, and I will steep to any low to kill you for what you've done. And we see Mahito just shrinking back in fear, and he's like petrified with it all. Yuji is looking like a total monster in all the best ways. And I'm kind of talking myself to making it Yuji, but we might have a switch here. I won't click submit yet. But then we have Thorfinn, I Have No Enemies. And this one's probably more profound because it comes from his father, Thor's. As a little boy, Thorfinn is idolizing his father, and we see on the ship where Thor's dies. Well, no, sorry, this was a little bit before that, but Thor's puts it into action on the boats, where he eventually has to draw his sword, and he thinks that's a weakness because he shouldn't have to draw a blade because he doesn't have enemies. These people aren't his enemies. That's the philosophy that he's chosen to live with. And then to see Thorfinn first hate it and despise it and reject it, he's not going to do that. I have enemies. Askeladd is my enemy. He is dead. I would dedicate my whole life to beating him. But then Askeladd gets the revenge that he so yearns for gets robbed from him. He doesn't get the kill. And then, going and being on the farm. I know a lot of people don't like it. I personally love season 2. I reckon it's so good. Seeing his growth through, I forget the guy's name, but through the other slave that he's with as they're cutting down trees, and Snake and the other people on the farm. And then he eventually comes to the conclusion of, yeah, I'm like my father. I don't have any enemies. And he stands before the whole, like 100 Vikings, and just lets one of them beat him down. I think it's like 100 punches he gets hit with. And through it all, he's still standing. He won't raise his fists in violence because there's no need to, because these people aren't his enemies. So to see the ideology get to be carried on by Thorfinn, I think that makes it a little bit more profound, and I think I like it a little bit more. So I think I'm going to have to go with Thorfinn on this. Vinland Saga is just bringing it home there. Robin, I Want to Live from One Piece, and Kira, I Want a Normal Life. Oh, Kira, let's start with Robin's one, because lots of people are probably just thinking, Jack, that's not a speech, that's just a sentence, like where she screams, I want to live. But it's more than that, because if you remember, that's the thing that gets remembered. But if you remember, she continues to go on with, take me away from you, take me away from here, come rescue me, come take me on your ship, let me travel with you, please come and save me. It goes on more than that, and I do consider it a speech. Robin is probably my favorite female character of all time. She is just done spectacularly, and not just female character, one of my favorite characters of all time. Kira, Jojo. You see, both of these are a top 10 anime for me. One Piece is probably my favorite anime of all time, but JoJo's is in the top 10 with the Fate series, with One Piece as well. And his internal monologue in the beginning about being a serial killer but just wanting a normal life is wild. I've never seen anything like it. How are they getting me to sympathize with a serial killer who are killing all these women and taking their hands? and making me sympathize. Why are you bothering him? Just let him go on his business. I don't want to be bothered. I can relate to him. He doesn't want to be bothered. Just let him go on his way. And then he has to. It leads to him having to escape all the good guys and how much of a drag it is if we take a Shikamaru saying there. And it's just a wild take that perfectly is a perfect synopsis of who Kira is as a villain. Is he my favorite villain in JoJo's? Probably not. I love his personality. I love his design. I love his power. Killer Queen. But I mean, I think it has to be Dio Del Worldo. Dio is just larger than life and just so charismatic. I think he has to be my favorite. But Diavolo and Poochie are great as well. Cars is really good. Wamu is really good. Just JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is such a great series. I have to give it to Robin though. As good as this is as pitching who Kira is as a villain, Robin's speech is just one that's up there with Pain's speech about hate, Rengoku's speech about his dying speech. When I first thought about speeches, that was, one of the first ones I thought of, and the way that lives with fans, and probably some people say that's the greatest moment of all of One Piece, and I can't dispute that. It's such a powerful moment. It takes everything that happened with Nami and it puts it on steroids with how good that is. So for me, just the impacts that it had on me, very subjective, of course. I think I have to put Robin to win that one. Oh, our last two matchups here. Doflamingo's speech about justice in the War of Marineford, and Aizen's speech about I am a victor. Doflamingo's speech about justice, it is so iconic that I often see it in being played over like edits, AMVs and stuff for like One Piece trailers and stuff, fan-made projects. It goes along the lines of, who is justice? Are the pirates justice? Are the marines justice? Kids that have never known a war have different beliefs than kids that have only known peace. And he kind of puts the comparison back and forth. He goes with like, starving and not starving, and he shows the duality of the world. Some people are living over on the left, some people are living over the right, and that justice is decided by the victor. History is decided by the victor. His speech here is something that can be taken into real life history about, what is written about things is often written from the point of view of the victor. It's a very, very intelligent speech that Oda has given Doflamingo here. One that really encapsulates Doflamingo's character as a whole. I love in the anime when they're doing it, it cuts to Whitebeard and Sengoku, the two leaders of the opposing forces. And it's like they probably can't even hear Doflamingo. He's just like out in the middle of the battlefield saying this. But the way they show it, where it's like, yeah, like they're taking Doflamingo's words seriously and to heart. It's a fabulous speech, one of the best you'll ever see in anime. But then we have Aizen. Oh, look, I wouldn't put my money to this because I've never sat down and truly thought about it because it's such a hard list. But Aizen is quite possibly my favorite villain of all time, so I'm biased. You might, Aizen also had the really good speech of, when did you think I wasn't using my Kyoka Suigetsu, as he cuts everyone down. That's up there as well. I know lots of people kind of don't like Aizen's speech at the end, what's his name? Kubo turns him into like a raving lunatic. A lot of people say that, and I think that doesn't help with what happens with the Stern Ritter later on, especially in the manga. They all kind of have the same archetype. But for me, his speech here, where it is done so, the body movement of Aizen here, where he's getting sealed by Urahara, and he's ripping the seal off with his bare hands, and he talks about, do you know how much I despise you, Urahara? With your amazing intellect, why do you subjugate yourself to that thing? And he says like thing with such disdain, and he says, when he's talking about Urahara's intelligence, he has so much disdain in his voice with how much jealousy and envy he has over Urahara. And, Urahara mentions, like, you've seen it, you've seen the Soul King. And he says, the Soul King is the linchpin that keeps everything together. And then Aizen just flies off the handle again as he's like tearing it down, and Ichigo's getting worried, like, oh my god, he's gonna break out. And Aizen's like, that's an argument only a loser would make. I am a victor. I will decide how the world will be. And he's doing all these like hand gestures. I'm someone that talks with my hands, so I can relate to it. Has my hand stopped moving this whole video? Who the hell knows? But Aizen's like it's just done so well. The body language, the voice acting, the art is just done so great in it that I think the sheer kind of hatred and pettiness, I need to give it to Aizen for what I loved more. This is a little bit like the Archer situation. Doflamingo's speech is definitely more relevant to the real world. And probably like that can be up there with real life historic quotes. I reckon. I don't know if I'm highballing that, but Doflamingo just makes a lot of sense in his speech. But this is a form of entertainment, and I have to say I was entertained by Aizen's more than Doflamingo's. Bit biased, but Aizen's going on to the next round. Oh, what does this tournament website know these pairings? Madara and Pain was great. Archer and Kaneki was great. Um, Yuji and Thorfinn was a great pairing. And now Rengoku and Hiruluk, they're both dying speeches. Why would you make me do this? Rengoku's dying speech. Rengoku is the most recent character, it was a few years back now, but still the most recent character that made me fall in love with a character so quickly as Demon Slayer made me with Rengoku. I was in tears after like 7 episodes with this man dying. Set your heart ablaze, where he goes on to Tanjiro and Inosuke about you guys need to stay alive. It's my job to make sure that the buds grow and that everyone is safe and that you guys will grow up to be a splendid Hashira. It's been an honor to be able to be here and watch over you in this fight and see what like all your abilities are and just how much growth and potential you all have. And he's so dignified and he's so composed with it all. And then where it cuts to I forget his name, but the leader of the Hashira, the one with all the scars and stuff, where he goes on about how, Rengoku didn't fail. He may have died, but no one else died. He did his job as a Hashira. And you know that is all Rengoku would want, to make sure that everyone was survived. All the effort that he went into saving Tanjiro, and then just as he's kneeling down, the art as the blood's pouring down his face, as he's smiling, he goes out like a Will of D member. It is fantastic. Then we have Hiruluk. Probably not as major of a character as Rengoku, but no less impactful. Where he talks about to Chopper about he's just eaten a poison. I just went over Hiruluk in the best dad's video ever. If I remember, I'll chuck it up on screen. Go give it a watch. But where Hiruluk eats the poisonous mushroom that Chopper has fought so hard to get because he didn't want to disappoint his son. He didn't want to diminish all his tough work. And then he goes to Wapple's castle, and not only does he like he's dying already, but not only does he take poison from his son, he goes to end himself. So his son's poison wouldn't be the one that kills him. And then he has this speech about, when does someone die? And he talks about, does someone die when they get an incurable disease? So does someone die when they drink a poisonous bowl of mushrooms? Does someone die when they get shot in the heart? No. Someone dies when they're forgotten. And he's saying this, and he knows that Kureha and Chopper is all going to keep his memory alive. He's not, in his ideology, he's not dying here. It's just the end of his, mortal existence. He's going to live on in the hearts of Chopper, and he makes peace with that. And then we have Dalton, just tears streaming down his face. He's found the whole thing so profound, where he says to Hiruluk, is that true of a country as well? And Hiruluk, without missing a beat, he's just like, Of course it is, if the heart, if the will to believe in it is strong enough. And that's what takes Dalton on his whole character arc to eventually become king of Drum Island. They're both, and Hero Looks has better music behind it. I forget the name of the soundtrack, but it is so hauntingly sad that it does such a great job to not carry the scene but heighten it. What do I like better? Look, I'm going. This might piss a lot of people off. I'm going to have to give it to to Rengoku for a couple of reasons. I get more teary-eyed with Rengoku's one. Maybe I haven't watched the Hero Look one in a while, but the Rengoku one, I was on a wave of emotions just because of how quickly they made me love this character and fall in love with him. So to have him die and die in such a in such a happy slash sad way, which is such a weird thing to say, but he went out with just so much grace and he was so composed with himself, and so was Hero Look, but he was so composed with himself that I thought it was just so admirable. It was one of the best deaths I've ever seen. And Hero Looks was as well, but I think it just comes down to the fact that I like Rengoku's character a little bit more. And this isn't a list of, which character do I like better. But, personal bias is going to affect how much a speech really stays with you. So I think for me, it has to be Rengoku's, especially with Akaza, staring him down and this massive threat that also is just in awe of Rengoku's just honor and determination. So I think it has to be Rengoku. But if there was a tie, I think I'd have to give these two a tie. Hero Look where Chopper eventually comes and then Dalton stops him and be like, you're gonna if you can't beat me, you're not going to be able to eat Wapple. Just escape. Hero Look didn't die for you to sacrifice yourself. Like both of them are great, but I have to go Rengoku. The first round is over. Let's go to the second round. This is where we'll even get more controversial. Pain versus Shanks. I'm going to come out and say it, not just to speed things along, but I have to give it to Pain. As much as I love Shanks' speech here, and even though I do think it's better than Ulquiorra's, Pain's speech is it's so iconic. The whole way he just completely flips Naruto's ideology on its head about him not even realizing that other villagers could have caused harm to other people, and then he questions him on hate, and Naruto doesn't have an answer. Naruto gets defeated a second time by this, by Pain being like, well, what would you do then? How would how would you bring peace to the world? How would you defeat hate? And Naruto just looking down onto the ground. That look down is like the biggest defeat Naruto ever gets in a lot of ways, because he doesn't have an answer, and he shouldn't have an answer. He's a 16-year-old kid that's never really thought about this until now. So it's so iconic. There's another part of this speech that I really love as well, but we're going to save it for the next round and see who he's up against. Shanks' speech is really good, but for me, it has to be Pain. Archer's truth reveal versus Erwin's rage. Now we're going to go through these a little bit quicker because we have done a big rundown of them in the first round to kind of get us all caught up onto what they are. For me, it has to be Archer. As great as Erwin's one is, Archer's one is just so... It's such a plot twist that it just comes out of nowhere, and the way that, once again, how he clashes with Shiro's ideology, and how through all his words it's so depressing because we kind of know, we kind of believe in Archer here rather than Shiro, that Shiro's going to turn into this. Archer is just speaking truth. And then, when he's speaking over his reality marble, where it's just a desolate land of swords, and Shiro is just like, is this what my future holds? Is this what my heart? Is this what my world's going to be like? Because I think this is going to break my heart. And then we have Archer just dressing him down even more of, you live a hypocritical dream. You never even had a dream of your own. All of your dreams were from Kiritsugu Emiya. You never learned to live by yourself because you were so thankful and grateful to what Kiritsugu did to you. Kiritsugu butchered that in the beginning. So I think it has to be Archer. I know lots of people might even have Irwin's as number one. He's lots of people's poster child for great speech givers. But for me, personal bias has to be Archer. Oh, that one's going to be difficult. Pain and Archer. Oh, God. Thorfinn, I have no enemies. And Robin, I want to live. Oh, where do we put this? The hipster answer is Thorfinn, I have no enemies. Both of them have profound impacts. Thorfinn's is so profound because it comes from the sacrifices his dad and the teachings that he got his whole life from his beloved father figure. Robin's is so important because a whole couple of arcs have led up to it, and then all the arcs afterwards have a result of this speech. Look, she's one of my favorite characters of all time. It's such a great moment. I'm sorry, I have to give it to Robin. Robin's I Want to Live, the tears coming down her face, how she gives up control and willingly just puts her life in Luffy's hand without question is just, I'm a bit of a control freak, but to see her do that, it's so admirable. I have to give it to Robin. Look, the three that we just got here, I had to talk them over just to make sure that I wasn't misremembering anything, but I kind of had my thought on who would win out of these ones. This one, though, Aizen I Am the Victor and Rengoku's dying speech. As much as Rengoku is one of those characters that I just fell in love with after a few episodes, which is so rare to do, Aizen's speech about I Am the Victor, I like Aizen more. Oh, I think I'm going to have to give it to Rengoku. Aizen is more charismatic, he's more entertaining to watch, and the stakes of it is incredibly high. Not as high as Rengoku because it's his death. The art isn't as beautiful with Aizen as it is with Rengoku, and it's not as emotionally compelling as Rengoku's is, because this guy that we've all fallen in love with is literally dying and dying for such a honorable reason that I think it has more of an impact on the viewer than Aizen's one does. Aizen's is more of a cool one, and he gets by a lot with charisma. He was even able to beat Doflamingo. But for this one, I think he's coming up short, and I think he's losing this round. I think Rengoku is taking it. It would be very interesting to look how these matchups went if the tiers were a little bit different. What would happen if Aizen went up against Pain in the beginning? What happens if Shanks went up against Archer? It could change this whole list and what this end result is. So I think I really, really like the layout of it all. Oh, these next two are going to be hard. And once again, it just works so perfectly because the Robin and Rengoku ones are the two dying ones. So once again, they're mirroring each other. I really love how the placements of these went. And then Pains and Archers are very much about ideology. Let me talk you through my thoughts here. I think... Archers is definitely a speech, but it's mixed in with a fight, which kind of waters it down a smidgen. Pains is just a straight 3 or 4 minute speech after he just beat Naruto in a fight. And the way both of them make the main character question who they are. Archer does it in more of a plot twist way because no one saw that coming. Pain does it in more of a in a bigger way because Naruto was a more popular character, and at this stage Naruto had been around for 300 episodes, probably a little bit more. So to be following someone on a journey for that long and to see their whole world get turned upside down by a man's speech is just it's next level. I feel bad because this was like the first speech that I thought of in my head. And it kind of feels like that's just the immediate victor. I'm not sure, but I think I have to give it to Payne. I think Payne just narrows out Archer here just because of how iconic it is and how much it did to the MC, who we probably liked a little bit more than Shiro. The plot twist, though, was much better with Archer. Oh, I'm so sorry with the yawning. It is, what's the time? It's 12:30 here. I'm really tired. It's my second video I've filmed today, so if you're subscribed to my channel, if you're not, bloody subscribe. But if you're being like, oh, Jack, you're wearing the same thing. I filmed them on the same night, guys. It has to go to Payne. He is in the championship. Did people think that that was going to be the case from the get-go? Robin, I Want to Live versus Rengoku's dying speech. I said before they were both dying. I'm a complete idiot. That's just how impactful Robin's speech was at the time. Robin's is definitely more iconic. And even though Rengoku's dying, I think Robin's is more emotional. Robin's speech of her, how can I say this? Her willingness to make herself vulnerable and how hard she fights after having this speech, where she's literally gripping onto the stairs with her teeth because she knows Luffy's coming and she's going to do anything to even slow them down for a millisecond because her captain is coming to rescue her. And she's able to have this faith because of everything she's said here. Everything that's, become realized to her through the actions of Luffy. And I just think it's so compelling, her speech, on a level that most things in fiction can't get to. I just can't get over enough how much I love that. So I think Robin has to beat Rengoku here. And we have our final. They've had a tough season. There were a lot of tough fights. Payne had to go through Madara in the first round. What a knockout that match was. What a fight. Then he had to go against Shanks. A little bit of an easier win, but he got through him. Then comes Archer with his plot twists and with his amazing reveals and the whole cinematography of the fight. But Payne won't let it go. He easily gets a cheeky little uppercut and he takes Archer out. Robin has had just as much of a difficult past. She goes up against Kira, of all people, the serial killer who just wants to live a normal life. She knocks him out of the way. She goes through Thorfinn and his emotionally compelling speech through the words of his father, knocks him out. She even goes up against the dying Rengoku, and as tough as that fight was, she's able to lay the smacker down on Rengoku to bring us into our finale. Payne versus Robin. Who wins? Pause the video right now in the comments. Who do you think takes this? Not who do you think I will choose? Who do you think takes it? Payne or Robin? Oh, God. Both are incredibly emotionally compelling. Robin's is internal, her speech, in terms of it's for her and it impacts her whole story. Payne's is great because it's what affects the main character. Robin is essentially hyping herself up in very simplistic terms, while Payne is making the main character question everything he knows. I promised an insight on Payne's speech that I really loved that we hadn't gotten into yet. And it was where he drops the facade of a god. We know that Payne or / Nagato has a god complex. But when he goes, we're just two ordinary men who have been forced to seek justice. To seek vengeance in the name of justice. Wow, the writing there is just to show that underneath all the bluster, all the hype, all the ego, that he does, at the end of the day, he does just consider himself a normal man who has faults, and this is the ideology he's been forced to go with through all the hardships he's faced in this world. It's such an insight to his character, especially for a villain. Robin gets more of a look in because she's a main character type of thing. we get a lot more backstory with her. With at this time with Pain, he's just this otherworldly, like otherworldly. What's the word? Egomaniac with a god complex. And to see just the sheer insight, to have his moment of emotional vulnerability, and then the way he tears through the main character. Oh, this is so difficult. And we should do scores next time if we do this. But uh, Robin's had more of an impact on the overall story, but then Pain, you could argue, even though Jiraiya gave Naruto the idea, Pain questioning him on it is what led Naruto to go down his dream about creating world peace, not just being Hokage, thinking of a dream a little bit more bigger than just himself. So it plays a huge part in the main character. And he is the main character. Robin isn't the main character. I think I have to give it to Pain. It's the first. It's the first speech I thought of. It's honestly the first speech in all fiction I thought of first. It's up there with, if you want to even call it a speech, Darth Vader, Luke. Or he doesn't even say Luke. He just says, "I am your father." And I think it has to be Pain. I thought he was this was the horse that had the most money bet on him. He was coming out like $2 odds type of thing. Robin kind of just behind him at about, two $50 odds. A couple of them like Rengoku, like Aizen, Archer, coming in at that kind of $250 odds to who would win. But I think I feel comfortable with Pain. I think I have to give it to Pain. And that is our victor. Pain has come away with the tournament win. It's been a long, grueling fight, but he's got there in the end, and he's been able to knock Nico Robin, the demon child, off the perch that she was on. Pain, I can't get over that scene. It is one of my favorite scenes in fiction. They both are. I'm not happy with it. It was a tough choice, but I think I have to go with Pain as the winner. That's tonight's video, guys. It's a lot of fun. It's something really different. I don't know how this is going to go. I've never really seen anyone do something like this. I wanted it to be a little bit more creative. Let me know if this is something that you really like, if we should do content in this form. If not specifically on this website, but in like a tournament setting. I had a lot of fun with it, and Pain is our victor. I have to decide what I'm going to do for a thumbnail, guys. Like, Pain's such a sweet thumbnail, but that gives away the victor. Do I do Robin first, maybe? Or even Archer? They had some big insights on it. Rengoku did as well. I have a lot to think about, and I'm very curious to see how it goes. But, guys, I need to get to bed. Gonna have to edit this one tomorrow. Hopefully it should be out tomorrow. I just released Jujutsu Kaisen one. Go watch that. Released the Attack on Titan one. Hugely controversial. I've been Jack Cypher. Have a lovely night, guys.